What if I told you that the world's largest island could reshape global power dynamics overnight? President Trump has repeatedly expressed interest in acquiring Greenland.
We need Greenland from a national security situation.
Even floating the idea of using military or economic force to secure it. But if this actually happened, the consequences would be far more complex and far-reaching than most people realize. Today, we're breaking down exactly what would unfold if America took control of Greenland. Greenland isn't just ice and polar bears. This autonomous territory of Denmark sits at the crossroads of Arctic geopolitics, holding massive reserves of rare earth minerals, critical military positioning, and some of the world's most valuable shipping routes as climate change opens new pathways through melting ice. Trump's interest in Greenland isn't new. He first proposed purchasing it in 2019 and has renewed these discussions with increased urgency. His administration views Greenland as essential for countering Chinese influence, securing rare earth minerals, and maintaining military dominance in the Arctic. But the question matters beyond Trump's ambitions. It touches on the scramble for Arctic resources, strategic competition between global powers, and the rights of indigenous populations in an era of renewed great power politics.
I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor, okay?
First, let's address the immediate international fallout. Denmark, a NATO ally since 1949, already rejected Trump's 2019 proposal, with the Danish Prime Minister calling the idea absurd. Even if Trump pursued a purchase or applied economic pressure, Denmark would face massive public opposition and constitutional challenges. Here's the complication. Greenland's 57,000 residents, primarily indigenous Inuit, would need to consent under international law. Greenland already has substantial autonomy and has been moving toward full independence from Denmark. Any U.S. acquisition would need to respect existing self-governance structures, meaning America wouldn't get complete control. The European Union would respond with alarm. We'd likely see emergency EU summits, potential economic countermeasures, and a fundamental reassessment of transatlantic relations. NATO itself could face an unprecedented crisis if the US pressured a member state. Meanwhile, Russia and China would seize the opportunity, portraying this as American imperialism and using it to justify their own territorial ambitions in the Arctic and beyond. Now let's talk about why Trump sees Greenland as valuable. The island contains significant deposits of rare earth elements, materials essential for everything from smartphones to advanced weapons systems. Currently, China controls about 70% of global rare earth production. Access to Greenlandic resources could reduce this dependency, aligning with Trump's focus on economic nationalism and reducing reliance on China. But extraction would require massive infrastructure investment, hundreds of billions of dollars for roads, ports, and processing facilities in one of Earth's harshest environments. Climate change is opening new Arctic shipping routes, potentially cutting travel time between Asia and Europe by 40%. Control of Greenland would give the U.S. significant influence over these routes. Fitting Trump's transactional view of foreign policy, controlling valuable real estate means controlling global commerce. The military advantage is perhaps most immediate. Greenland already hosts Thule Air Base, critical for missile defense. Expanded U.S. presence could enhance surveillance of Russian submarines and Chinese activities, but would also accelerate an Arctic arms race. The human cost. Here's what often gets overlooked in Trump's transactional approach. Greenland's 57,000 residents aren't property in a real estate deal. The population is roughly 90% Inuit, with their own language, culture, and political aspirations. If the U.S. took control, what happens to Greenlandic sovereignty? Would residents become U.S. citizens? The precedent of how America has managed territories like Puerto Rico and Guam, often without full representation, doesn't inspire confidence. Economic benefits would be unevenly distributed. While some Greenlanders might gain employment, resource extraction often enriches external corporations while leaving local populations with environmental damage. Trump's business-focused approach prioritizes resource extraction, which could accelerate the erosion of indigenous culture and environmental degradation. The practical impossibilities. Let's be realistic. For the U.S. to legally acquire Greenland, Denmark would need to agree, Greenland's parliament would need to consent, and likely a referendum would need to pass. Despite Trump's negotiating confidence, the chances of all three aligning are extremely low. Even if pursued, the price would be astronomical, Estimates range from hundreds of billions to over $1 trillion. Then add ongoing costs of governance and development. If Trump attempted to use economic pressure or military threats as he suggested, it would violate international law and trigger a crisis with NATO allies. The United Nations would likely condemn such actions, and the U.S. would face international isolation on a scale not seen in generations. Perhaps most dangerous, this would set a precedent that wealthy nations can simply acquire territories in the 21st century, opening the door to a new era of colonialism, where money and military might determine borders. So what would really happen if Trump's vision became reality? A geopolitical crisis unlike anything we've seen in decades, coupled with practical challenges that would take generations to resolve. But here's the deeper truth. Trump's Greenland ambition forces us to confront important questions. In an era of rising nationalism and great power competition, how do we balance resource needs with indigenous rights? How should the Arctic be governed as it becomes more accessible? And can we find frameworks for cooperation instead of acquisition? The discussion about Greenland reveals competing visions for America's role in the world, one focused on transactional deals and territorial control, another on alliance building and international law. What do you think? Is Trump right that securing Greenland is essential for American interests, or would pursuing it damage our standing in the world? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe for more deep dives into the geopolitical issues shaping our world.